Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach, and it's great to have you joining us today for our live workshop called Job Hunting Tips in a Competitive Market. Today's session, I'm going to give you 10 tips. We're going to go through the top 10 things that I think that you can do to really help improve your chances when you're looking for work. Now, at the moment, you might have heard through the media the portrayal of the story that unemployment is quite low in Australia at the moment. And it is. There's no denying those statistics. Unemployment is quite low. Lots of the borders are locked down. There's no skilled migration coming into the country. And a lot of organizations are struggling to land the talent that they need. What this can mean sometimes when you're looking for work and you haven't been successful is you can start to think, well, why can't I get a job? However, job hunting is always competitive. It is always competitive when you are looking for work. Even if unemployment was at zero, it is still competitive because there are still hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, if not 100,000 Australians looking for work at any one time. And you need to be the best prepared and the best presented candidate to still land the job. So even though, yes, unemployment might be low, it certainly doesn't mean that the recruitment process is very competitive. And so today, I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you some ideas. I'm going to give you some suggestions on how you can stand out when you're looking for work in a competitive market. Alrighty. So a little bit of workshop housekeeping before we start. If I do drop off, if I lose connection for whatever reason today, please stay on the line and wait for me to rejoin. Feel free to ask questions in the comments box. We've had a few people chatting in there already this morning, but we are coming to you live. We are not pre-recorded. We are coming to you live on Wednesday, the 13th of October at 10:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Ask me any question as we're going along today, and I'll answer it for you in real time. Take lots of notes, though. It's really important when you hear something to note it down at the time that you're hearing it, not just necessarily noting it down when you listen to it for the third or the fourth time, because the first time you hear something, the first time you learn something, that's often when it's most powerful. So you want to remember what you learned in the moment, what you thought about it, and how it made you feel. But you can also watch a replay of today. You can watch a replay of today on our YouTube channel. It will be uploaded within 5 minutes of the session today, and it will stay there for you to watch a replay of. So a little bit about me before we go too further. Who am I? James Whitcomb. Well, I'm a director at a recruitment agency called Smart Recruitment. We focus on lots of sales and marketing and high volume types roles. We also do administration and financial services. I've been in recruitment myself since 2005, and I've conducted over 3,000 interviews and over 600 group assessments in that time, and placed over 1,000 people, well over 1,000 people into jobs, and formed the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today in December 2019. Alrighty, so let's get into it. 10 job hunting tips in a competitive market. Have your pen and notepad ready, or have a tab open on your computer screen there so you can note down some of the things that I'm going to tell you as we go along today. But tip number 1, find a connection and use your network. So when you're looking at a company, do you know anyone that actually works where you're applying? So often I hear people say, I applied for a job where you work, I didn't get the job. And the person says, oh, you should have let me know. I know that manager. I could have put a word in for you. I could have introduced you. So using your connections, using your network is something that's really important. This is something that experienced business people use all the time. They use their networks, not just necessarily for job hunting purposes, but you need to use your connections. You need to use your network. So if you're interested in applying for a job at a particular organization, step back for a moment and have a think. Do you know anybody that works there? Do you know anybody that could introduce you there? Because if you come via an introduction from somebody that works in the organization, that is really powerful. That normally means something. Maybe it's going through your LinkedIn network. Maybe it's going through your connections there. So if you don't actually know somebody, there's nothing wrong with actually reaching out and connecting. So if you're looking at a potential organization and you don't know anyone there, maybe reach out to somebody on LinkedIn. Maybe try to establish a relationship with them. So find a connection, use your network. Yes, you can certainly apply for the job directly, but if you come as a referral or a recommendation from somebody that already works in that organization, that is going to carry some weight. So, tip number 1, find a connection and use your network. Tip number 2, use people's names in your cover letter. So, whenever I advertise a role, I always put my name on the advertisement. It's always down the bottom, and I love it when somebody then uses my name in the cover letter. First of all, it just shows me that they've read the advertisement and they've taken the time to create a cover letter that is really quite customized. But also, people in general like it when their name is used. So, yes, use it in your cover letter, but also use it whenever you meet somebody. So, if you're coming along for an interview with me, and I meet you at the reception desk and you say, "Good morning, James. Thanks for meeting me." I like that. And if I say, "Good morning, whatever your name is," you will like that too. People like it when their names are used. It feels like they've been remembered. It makes them feel important. So certainly do it in your cover letter. But also, what I particularly recommend doing for graduates, if you're going to careers fairs, is writing down the names of people that you're speaking to. You can then use that information and use their names in their cover letter, or perhaps in the interview. You can mention the name of the person that you met at the careers fair. Don't just say, "I met representatives from your company at the careers fair." Use somebody's name. If you use somebody's name, it shows you pay attention, you remember important details, and it is impressive. All right, tip number 3, have an achievements-based resume. Now, for those of you who attended my resume workshop last week, you will know the absolute importance that I place on having achievements listed on your resume. But still, not enough candidates do this. If you didn't attend our resume workshop last week, jump onto our YouTube channel, watch a replay of how to create an amazing resume. We talk about the importance of having achievements on your resume and having your achievements based, because when everybody has the same qualifications, it's actually your achievements that make you stand out. So this week at Smart, where I work, we'll probably get 50 resumes from people who work at McDonald's. And we actually know, I've got a really good understanding of what somebody does when they work at McDonald's. So what I'm not actually looking for is what you've done in the job, because I know that. What I'm looking for is how well you did. What achievements have you got on your resume? What can you tell me that makes you stand out? So when you're writing your job, just your description of the job that you did, or the description of the studies that you've completed, think about the achievements. Make sure you're listing 2 or 3 achievements with every job. It will really help your resume to stand out. That's what we want to see. Not what you did, or not just what you did, but how well you did it. Alrighty, tip number 4. Show what you know about the company and the industry. And the industry is becoming really important when we're doing recruitment. So a lot of job seekers know how to go and do research on the company. You know how to go to the company's website. You can jump on their careers page. We kind of expect that's the absolute base level. That's the base level. But show what you know about the industry can really help you to stand out as a candidate. If you can show you've got interest in the industry, you've got market knowledge about the industry, then you are going to stand out. And in a really competitive process, if you're being interviewed along with 5 other candidates, if you can be the candidate that knows the most about the industry, or shows you've done some really good research into the industry, that could be the single point of difference that gets you the job. So show what you know. You need to do as much or more research than the other candidates. If you want to beat the other candidates, you need to be better prepared than the other candidates. So look on company websites, look on careers pages. But for bonus points, it's the last 2. It's press releases. It's the annual report. Now, a company's annual report might be this thick. It might be 200 pages long. I don't think you need to go and read all 200 pages, but you might flick through it and you might note down 3 or 4 interesting things from the annual report. Now, if in your interview, you can say to the interviewer, I read this in the annual report and I've got a question, the interviewer will be thinking, oh my goodness, this person read the annual report. I've never read the annual report. It's really boring. What a great level of research they've done. So you're actually doing research to show how keen you are. Google the organization. Find information on page 3 of Google search results, not page 1. Show what you know about the company and the industry. All right, I want to share with you a quote or a LinkedIn post. This LinkedIn post comes from Stefan Wheelock, a well-known recruiter at a company called Explore in Melbourne. And he's given me permission to share this with you. This is a post he did several months ago. I want to read it out to you. So Stefan wrote, credentials on your resume will give you that first interview, but it's not the key to your next position. Looking at the people we recently hired or who will be joining us shortly, there is one thing they all have in common. They were uber prepared. They have dug deep into what we do and stand for. They impressed us with their knowledge of our business and the problems we are trying to solve. Yet not all of them were exactly what we were looking for. On the opposite side, I interviewed a candidate the other day who looked great on paper. But when I spoke with her, she had no idea what we were doing and said she'd only research a company once she lands an on-site interview. Well, it's a Zoom interview these days. Though if you haven't spent any time researching our company, you're missing the mark. I understand doing research takes effort and you don't even know if it'll pay off. However, that's exactly what other applicants do to get the job. And they're the ones you compete with right from the beginning of your application. I want to read that last sentence again. However, that's exactly what other applicants do to get the job. And they're the ones you compete with right from the beginning of your application. So I can't make you go and do the research. I certainly can't make you do it. But as Stefan is showing there, if you want to compete, you need to do your research because that's what the candidates do who are the ones that are getting the job. So go away and do the research. All right, tip 5, research the recruitment process. Okay, so what do I mean here by researching the recruitment process? Well, get an understanding. What tests will you be taking? One of the great things about looking for work in 2021 is there's a lot of review sites. So you can go to Glassdoor or other websites. You can actually review the recruitment process, particularly if you're applying for a really large, well-known organization. Doubly so if you're applying for a graduate job. There's a lot of information online about what you can expect from the recruitment process from different companies. So find out what test you'll be taking. And if you know what type of test you'll be taking, Google that test to find out how you can ace it. What assessments will you be asked to complete? Start preparing. What do previous candidates have to say? So if you know that you're walking into a group assessment, which is going to go for 2.5 hours, and you've got an understanding of the 3 activities, you've got a head start on those other candidates. You're a little bit more aware. You can be a bit more prepared so that you are standing out at interview. Likewise with the tests. If you've got an understanding, you know that you're going to take a biometric psychological test, you can Google what that is, and you can find some information on how to best prepare. You're giving yourself a leg up on the other candidates. Tip 6, practice your interview technique. It is the only way it will get better. Alrighty, next week let me look at my calendar, Tuesday and Wednesday at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, we are running 2 workshops. The first workshop is interview preparation 1, how to prepare and how to perform well. And on Wednesday, interview preparation 2, how to give great answers to interview questions. Now, one of the things that a lot of candidates do is they read interview questions, but they don't practice. If you don't practice answering interview questions, even if you just want to practice it into the mirror, it is not going to improve. You can read all the interview questions you like. You can memorize the interview questions. But if you don't actually practice your technique, if you don't actually practice answering them, if you don't then go and ask someone to listen to you answering them and critiquing you, you won't improve. You won't improve. So even if you're going to walk into an interview and you know the 12 questions you're going to be asked, if you haven't practiced how to answer those questions, it kind of doesn't matter. You need to practice. And I know sometimes it's hard to find someone to practice with you, and it's a bit embarrassing and maybe it's a bit awkward. But if you really want a job, and this means a lot to you, you need to go and practice, because that's the only way your technique is going to get better. Okay, I've got a question for you. Feel free to type this into the comments box. Who would you rather work with? We've got two choices here. Somebody likable, somebody unlikable. Who would you choose? All right, it's a silly question, isn't it? Because, of course, we want to click this one here, somebody likable. We want to work with somebody likable. So that's tip number 7. Be likable. It will increase your chances of getting the job. What do I mean by be likable? Well, let's think about some of the small things. When you meet with somebody, smile, firm handshake, look them in the eye, say, thank you for seeing me today. When you're being interviewed by somebody, they're not only assessing your suitability for the job, but they're thinking, do I want to sit next to this person for 40 hours a week? Or would I prefer to sit next to the person I interviewed an hour ago? Because they were a bit more likable. So you need to be likable. Smile, be polite, get along, build rapport. Go and look up some information on techniques around how you can be likable, because the recruitment process, as we're talking about today, it's very competitive. And if you're down to the interview stage, if you're having face-to-face interviews, it is normally small differences that get somebody the job from the candidates that are being interviewed. Let's say we interview 5 people. 4 of them are good enough to do the job. That's what happens a lot of the time, sometimes all 5. So the person who gets the job out of those 5, it's not normally based on skills or experience or education. It's based on some of these smaller, some of these softer things that job seekers underrate. So go away, look up how to be likable, and be likable throughout the recruitment process. I know it doesn't sound very scientific. I know it maybe doesn't sound particularly politically correct, but it is human nature that we want to work with and we want to be around people that we like. So use that information to your advantage. All right, tip number 8, ask great questions. Ask great questions. At the end of every interview, you're going to have the opportunity to ask a question. When I conclude an interview, I say, before we finish today, have you got any questions that you'd like to ask me? Now, this is the one part of the interview where you've got an opportunity to set the tone. So go along with 4 or 5 or 6 questions written down. And some of these questions need to be based off the level of research that you've done. So if you have flicked through that annual report, this is where you can ask a question. This is where you can say, I read the annual report and I noticed ... Ask that question. It will help you stand out. Tip number 9, positive, responsive communication. Answering your phone in a positive and professional manner when you're looking for work is so important. I can't tell you how difficult it is sometimes to actually reach people who apply for jobs. So make sure you've got an active voicemail. Make sure I can leave you a message. Make sure your message bank is clear. It's not full. But answer the phone in a positive and professional manner. Show interest in the person that you're meeting. So the person that you're meeting might be a bit nervous too. This might be the first time they've interviewed someone for 12 months. But show interest in them. Look them up on LinkedIn. Ask them about their role. Show some interest in the person. It builds your likability. Ask for honest feedback. There's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for feedback, and nowhere near enough candidates do this. What it shows is you're open. You're open to communicating. You're open to learning, you're open to developing, and have a thankful attitude. So at the start of the interview and at the end of the interview, say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me today. Doing these things, they sound like just good manners a lot of the time, but most people don't do them. They forget to because they're feeling really nervous. And then tip 10, my final tip, missing out on the job isn't the end of the world. Missing out is not the end of the world. When I graduated from university, I think I missed out on the first 7 or 8 jobs, and it really hit me pretty hard every time I got that rejection. But one of the things that it is important to try to do, and it's easy for me to say this and it's harder to do, is to try not to buy into the rejections because there's always more candidates than there are jobs available. So most people have to miss out. But what you can't afford to do is allow that sense of rejection from one job to carry into your application for the next. Alrighty. So a word on some of our upcoming workshops. So we run 2 workshops every week. We run 8 workshops for October. Next week, we're getting into really good detail around interviews, as I said. So be back here on Tuesday at 10 a.m. for the first part of our 2-part series on giving great interview answers. Sorry, researching and performing, and then giving great answers to interview questions. These are our most popular workshops next week. If you're still wanting more assistance, let me remind you what's available on your candidate coaching platform. We've got 12 video coaching episodes that you can go and watch at any time. We've got resume and cover letter templates that are ready for you to download and complete. We've got interview questions that you can download and practice based on your industry. We have online tests that you can take and get your results instantly. We have checklists to download to make sure you're best prepared. We have articles you can read, specific advice for executive job seekers, mental health support, and we'll show a video in a moment around that, as well as more upcoming live workshops, all available to you for free. But before you go today, we would love to get your feedback. I'm going to drop this into the chat box. Please take 2 minutes to complete our 2-minute survey. This really helps to give us some feedback on what you've got out of today's session and also what you'd like to see in future sessions. We also have the link there to follow us on our LinkedIn page to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the candidate coach, all of our resources. But today, as we do with all of our sessions, we'd like to finish with a video around making sure you're looking after your mental health when you're looking for work, because mental health is a big challenge for job seekers, particularly if you've been looking for work for some time. So you're going to hear from an expert now, a workplace psychologist, Dr. Sarah Barker, on how you can look after your mental health when you're looking for work. I hope to see you next week for our 2 interview workshops. Bye-bye for now.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. I work with a lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical at ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and wellbeing might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I'll just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job. Well, there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself, because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space, and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.